Why take a training class if the material's already on the internet? Let's talk about that. Welcome to the Patriot Training YouTube channel. My name is Clay Howell. I'm the owner and head firearms instructor at Patriot Training. The purpose of this video is to discuss why you should take a training class from Patriot Training or another good facility versus just learning the material on the internet. Well, we all know that you can learn anything and everything you want to from the internet. There's probably a video out there about it. And dude, if you wanted to, you could learn to be like God. It is true that all the necessary and pertinent information you would need to learn to be a competent rifleman can be found on the internet. There are videos showing you how to do each and every skill you need that detail what you need to do. That is certain. You know what the internet doesn't have? The internet does not have a competent instructor to show you and point out key details of how to perform that material in such a way that you get it. We each have different learning styles, and sometimes seeing it from a slightly different angle, sometimes hearing it a slightly different way, sometimes seeing a slightly different demonstration is what you need in order to get it. You know what the internet doesn't have? The internet does not have a competent coach standing nearby to help you when you don't quite get it exactly right, to help you out when you totally flub the entire thing, or to coach you, if you're already good, to coach you to that next level so that you can get even better. The internet doesn't have that. So you learn all these things online, and then you do go and practice them. Well, not very many people actually do that. They just see it and they think they got it. But let's say that you're the exception. You go and you practice that. Who's coaching you? What about when you get something slightly wrong? Almost everything I ever try, I get a little bit wrong the first time. Maybe you're better than that. Probably not. That happens to just about everybody. Just about every class I've ever taken. It's very rare that I see that no student gets no coaching whatsoever. It just doesn't happen. You're going to need some coaching. And who's providing that? YouTube certainly isn't going to. So let's say you even get halfway decent. I like to tell the anecdote of an individual who, at this individual's church, they were well renowned as one of the best shooters in that entire church. And this individual took the sniper class from Patriot Training. And although this individual completed every single exercise, it was very clear that this individual was struggling. They were by far and away the least skilled among the 5 or so participants in that class. Each of the other people, you see, had prior classes with Patriot Training and others, and they were able to put those other lessons into play. And the person who was self-taught, you see, they didn't have the depth and breadth of experience to know what to fall back on, whereas the people who'd been to a class and been challenged, they understood that those challenges existed, and they were better for it. One anecdote I like to point out also is that of all the hundreds and thousands of people that have come through the doors here at Patriot Training, and we're thankful for every single one of you, I promise, we've had 2, maybe 3 that were self-taught and were actually halfway decent. I can only think of one that was ever towards the top of the class, and to be very, very, very specific, that class was a carry permit. And that individual was making some decent groups for a carry permit class, and they were closer to middle of the road of what I would expect out of somebody after one class of essential pistol. So yeah, they were halfway, they were towards the top of that class, but it was a very rudimentary class, a carry permit class. It was not, something more stout, more stringent, more robust, if you will. So big fish in a small pond is the analogy that comes to mind here. You know what else the internet doesn't have? It doesn't have a filter. There's a lot of stuff that just ain't so on the internet. It's kind of like a Democrat. So there is no filter to filter out the fluff from the good stuff. And you could be watching the highest level, tier 1 operator, and something could be shown that is very, very, very circumstantial, and it might not be described that way by the time the video gets to final processing. So you could completely miss out on all the context in which you would use that tactic, that technique, or what have you. And so the filter on the fluff and stuff just isn't there on the internet. Finally, and possibly the most important, the internet does not have a logical, stepwise, thoughtful process of building one skill upon the next in order for you to understand the material, both sequentially as well as the big picture. And that building of skill like that is not something that you would be able to easily understand from any number of videos. Even if somebody laid it out very clearly, it's just very, very difficult to grasp that in a piece here, in a piece there. Another thing the internet does not offer is the ability to learn the material, then immediately practice the material under the watchful eye of a competent coach who can help smooth out the rough edges. Often enough, it's difficult to learn it from YouTube and then immediately go and practice it. Very few people watch something on YouTube and then immediately practice it on the range. That's not very common at all. So learning in a class has a huge benefit there. So what do you gain by personal, face-to-face instruction under the watchful eye of a competent instructor? Number one, you gain a logical stepwise progression, a syllabus that's been put together with an end goal in mind. And yes, I know there are some instructors out there that don't include that. We're not going to count those guys. We're going to count the people that actually care about what they're doing and want to get you the top quality product. The internet does not have competent coaches standing by to help smooth out the rough edges, help you with the material that's just not quite catching, or explain it to you slightly differently. The internet does not have a filter to filter out the good for the bad, or to tell you what things are circumstantially dependent. It needs this circumstance to be pertinent. A good class will show you and detail for you what is pertinent about what you're doing, when, where, and why, and explain those things. At Patriot Training, we have the how, the what, and the why. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are you going to do it? We cover those three things before we ever ask you to do the first movement of that exercise. And the reason is very simple. You need to understand what it is that you're doing and what makes that technique or that tactic pertinent. You need to understand why you're doing that versus, say, another tactic or technique. And that's boiling down to the nitty-gritty on the circumstances, the details, when you use A versus when you use B, that sort of thing. And then also you need to understand how to perform it. Given those circumstances, what are you going to change? Are we deviating from the norm? If so, why? That sort of thing. That's what you're getting in a class. So what do you think? Did I leave something out? Do you wish I'd added something else? Leave a comment down below. Tell me about it. Had a good experience with an instructor or with a training facility out there? Talk to me about that too. Have you had a negative experience? The instructor dumb as a box of rocks, or he flubbed something, or maybe he didn't understand the question. He didn't get the assignment, whatever the case may be. Tell me about that too. These are things I like talking about. And it doesn't mean that's a bad instructor or a bad school. They could have had a bad day. It could have just been a bad match between the teaching style and the learning style. These are all very likely possible events. So leave those there. Do hit like. Do hit subscribe. Click that notification bell so that you know when the new Patriot Training videos are dropping. And I'd like to remind you, you don't have to be a Patriot to train, but you do have to train if you want to be a Patriot. Take care.